Hello and welcome to Stand Up Historian. My name is Kurosh and I bring this show to you from beautiful Seattle, Washington. I have told you a few episodes about Jewish characters in Persian history according to biblical stories, and tonight I will continue telling you another story of a very important character in the Bible who lived in Persia, specifically his prediction of Persian Empire and conquest of Babylon. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about Daniel, prophet Daniel in the Bible. His name is mentioned in the obviously book of Daniel in the Bible. And in today's Iran, we have a city which is called Shush of Daniel, or Shush Daniel in Persian. Daniel pronounced Daniel in Persian. As you might know, in 605 BC, Jews were exiled from their homeland by Babylonians, and according to the traditions of the time, among those deported nations, King of Babylon ordered his ministers to find young and educated people among the exiled and train them Babylonian language, Babylonian culture, because the idea was to keep them in Babylon. So Daniel, from the tribe of Judah, was one of those people, along with some of his friends, that he was very well educated in the court of King Nebuchadnezzar the second, and he became very wise, and he was able to interpret dreams, and he became very close to the court of the Nebuchadnezzar II. So our story is 600 years before the birth of Christ, and the court of Babylon was the most powerful court in the whole world. The most powerful king at the time was Nebuchadnezzar II, and he had a dream. And his dream was so terrifying that he woke up and he was troubled, and he asked for his wise men and for his dream interpreters to come and interpret his dream. But there was a difference this time. This time, when all these people came to the court and were ready to listen to the king to see, okay, what was your dream? The king this time demanded something impossible and unheard of. He said, you have to tell me what was my dream and then interpret my dream. So not only you interpret it, but first you have to tell me what was my dream. And after they failed, because they said, this has never happened, we don't know, you have to tell us, Your Highness, what was your dream, and we try to translate or interpret that. And when he rejected, he said, okay, if you can't do this, I will order all of you to be killed. And they can't, according to the story in the Bible, they can't translate the dream, and therefore the king orders all of them to be killed. Among them is young Daniel. And Daniel and his friends start thinking, okay, king is going to kill us. And what Daniel did, he talked to one of the court ministers and said, I need one more night, and then tomorrow I will tell the king what was his dream, and furthermore, I will interpret his dream exactly as it is. And king accepts that and gives him one night. According to the story in the Bible, God reveals in a dream to Daniel that the dream itself and also the interpretation of the dream. And the next day, when Daniel goes before the king, first he starts by telling him that, behold, there is an image, and that is the image of a major statue. And the head of that image is from gold, the chest is from silver, the belly and thighs are bronze, and legs of clay. And the interpretation of this is, the head of gold is Babylonian Empire. The chest of silver is the empire which will be coming after Babylonian Empire, which today we call that Persian Empire. So Babylonian Empire and then Persian Empire. And after that, it's the bronze represents Alexander, and the iron represents the Roman Empire, and finally is clay. And in your dream, king had this scene in that dream that a stone hits the legs of that statue and it falls apart and it's destroyed. So therefore Daniel tells the king what will happen in the future. And this has been part of eschatology in mostly Christianity and also some Jews, that Daniel and references to the book of Daniel are used for interpretations of what's going on in the world, what's coming, or sometimes just to predict the future according to the biblical references. So Daniel successfully translates that, and obviously everybody is saved at the end of this story. And this dream was 600 BC. So exile was 605. This is 5 years after the exile, roughly. And by 586, the temple, the first temple, Temple of Solomon, was destroyed in Israel, in Jerusalem. Between the dream 605 BC and Persians, Cyrus the Great specifically conquering the Babylon and establishing the Persian Empire, that happened in 539. So Cyrus the Great comes to the scene and he established Persian Empire, and Persians successfully conquer Babylon. And Babylon was, in the eyes of people at the time, invincible, with very thick and tall walls. This city was the best protected city in the whole world at the time. But Cyrus successfully enters the city and conquers that city, and that's the fall of Babylonian Empire and the beginning of Persian Empire. One thing very significant is that when Cyrus enters Babylon, unlike the methods of the day or ways of people at the time, the Persians, he asked Persians not to kill, not to damage their temples or disrespect people's beliefs. And in fact, he started the first human rights movement after his conquest in everywhere he went, especially in Babylon. So among those exiles were Jews, and he asked them, you can stay here or you can return to your land, go back to Judea, where you have come from. And he also gave them funding, if you will, to go back and build the second temple. So that's another significance of Persian Jewish connections for over 2,500 years. And that is the fact that second temple was built by Cyrus the Great, or Kurosh. Every time I introduce myself, Kurosh is the Persian form of the name Cyrus. Cyrus is the Greek form of that name. And also in Hebrew is Koresh, so very close to Kurosh. Someday I'll tell you the story of the name Kurosh and its roots. So what happens is Achaemenid dynasty starts in Iran and grows to an empire, becomes Persian Empire, and two major kings are Cyrus the Great, or Cyrus II. There was another Cyrus prior to that. And then Darius. So Darius and Cyrus not only established an empire, for the first time, specifically Darius, he established and created the concept of a nation. Prior to that, it's tribes and groups of people. There is no nation. When Darius comes and the fast expansion of Persian Empire happens, he calls these people living under his rule in his empire, he calls them a nation. And we know that among many things that he did, he built a Rah Shahi, or kingdom roads, and connected all the major cities together. He created the first postal service. These were riders that they would ride day and night to deliver messages from one area to another, and they would even stop at certain distances and change their horses and continue riding to sort of like a FedEx overnight delivery. And that is the first postal service, among many other things. Administration, bureaucracy, and all these things was established at the time of Darius. Machiavelli, in his book The Prince, also talks about Darius and his methods, or Persian methods, of ruling over their subjects or nations under their empire. So anyways, another significance of Cyrus is prediction of coming of Cyrus and Persian Empire by Daniel, and also Isaiah. In Isaiah chapter 45 verse 1, Isaiah says that, let me read that exactly for you. Isaiah 45:1, thus said the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him. And this is the only place in Torah or in Bible that God calls someone anointed, which is equal to Messiah, Moshiach, if you will. Okay, this was another significant character in Jewish history, which connects them to Persian. And I always mention this, before even Persians come to the scene, it were Jews, they lived in that area, and very close relationship after that. Interestingly enough, Bible tells us in the book of Daniel that Daniel served King Nebuchadnezzar, and after that, when Cyrus took over Babylon, he served under Cyrus the Great and also Darius. You can refer to Bible book of Daniel and Isaiah, and you can find all these stories. Daniel shrine is still in Iran, and there is a city after his name. Well, this was the story of tonight, Daniel and Cyrus the Great. Thank you very much. God bless you, and until next time. Bye-bye.